Hello and welcome everybody to another Saturday edition, I guess monthly Saturday edition of Simple Saltwater. Got my buddy, my pal, and my co-host Chattanooga Ed here, representing the quote-unquote amateur side of the saltwater hobbyist, and then we have our expert Mike, the fish tank barn. Well, excuse me, fish tank barn. I still want to throw the V in there. I'll get it one of these days.
Kind of like the Ohio State University, right?
Yeah. And then, of course, myself, the intermediate fisherman Faber. Appreciate you all being here today. I hope you're having a wonderful weekend. Hope you've had a great Saturday so far. So we are doing kind of an open Q&A this week, along with some show and tell, if you will. Mike's got some things he's going to show off for us and talk to us about. But kind of, one, give you all a break from the weekly lectures, if you will, about the topics, but also you all enjoyed that last Q&A, so we figured we'd bring it back to you again. I hope the notifications are working. I will say I did a members post yesterday, and it went to absolutely 0 members. 0 people got that notification. So I reshared it earlier, and I think 0 people got that as well. I manually said, hey, is this showing up? And Zen was kind enough to go and pull it up, and she said, no, I can find it if I look for it, but it didn't tell me it was there. So for those of you that were wanting to see the footage of me riding the mechanical shark that are members, that video is posted. You just go to the community tab and it will pull up. I did post it yesterday, as I mentioned I would, but for whatever reason, YouTube decided not to let you all know about it. So I wanted to apologize for that. But, you know, members is technically still in its beta testing version or whatever, so a lot of things don't work exactly like they should, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, the talk from Aquarium Co-op didn't come up today either, so.
Yeah, the only reason I made it to there was because they had the link in his little impromptu live stream right beforehand, so I just grabbed it from there and went over. But no, come to think of it, I didn't get any type of notification for that either. But yeah, it's I don't know. It's one of those things. They'll fix it or they won't, and it is what it is. I will say on that note, I've got a bunch of footage I never put into video form that I'm going to be releasing some things to the members. So keep an eye on that community tab from time to time, just in case, because there will be some funny stuff in there. I've got footage from when Ed and myself and Kenny E, Danican Aquatics went to see Father Fish that I'm going to be dropping in there for you, and some other stuff as well. So keep getting these messages that you're owed a refund for an overcharge on your phone bill. And it's like, no, leave me alone.
You know, like PayPal suspended your account.
Oh, yeah, all that wonderful stuff.
Yeah, it's like, the first time you're tempted to open it, you're like, it looks weird, I'm not opening it.
Yeah, and I went to like all of the lines that are on my account. I went to Mrs. Fever's and both of my phones, and it was the same numbers. Like, we owe you money, click this. And I'm like, not clicking that. AT&T has never just willingly said, we're going to give you money back. That's a fight.
I mean, even if it was real, I don't know if I would click it now, because there's so many clickbait things.
So, and we will get into saltwater, I promise. But while we're waiting for a few more people to roll in, I did see that Amanda Jean said that she got the notification, but not the member one. Awesome. So at least this one's going out. We'll give it a couple minutes to let some people roll in. I know Saturday's a little bit slower day, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I will say on the scam thing, I found it funny that they did find a prince overseas. He was dead in his apartment, and he had just stacks and stacks of cash in his apartment. So I always thought that was funny. After all the emails, they really did find this one prince with all these, giant boatloads of cash in an apartment.
I really wish our government would do something about it. I mean, we've been going almost 2 decades now, and the scams just get worse and worse.
They do. They really, really do.
And even on your phone now, right? Like, remember, like, you used to never call your cell phone?
Yeah.
And now it's like, your phone, I get all kinds of, like, unknown caller, right? It's like, I don't answer it. I mean...
Well, I get a lot of the text messages, especially group text. Like, it'll be me and 19 other phone numbers, and they're all like in sync with my number a lot of times. So I just use it. I'm like, they'll send a link, be like, click this here, and I'll be like, well, you click this here, and I'll put my YouTube channel. I'll be like, you go subscribe, and then we'll talk, okay, buddy? But Rico, you did not miss a members only stream. You missed a video that I posted to the members only. but it was not a stream, so don't cry too much. Managing says, I get calls saying thanks for being some TV customer. I haven't owned a TV for 10 years. Yeah, exactly. What's going on, Trevor Gregory? Good to see you. So, go ahead, buddy.
No, I was just going to keep elaborating on the schemes. I get all the time for student loans, and I have no student loans.
There you go. What's up, Steamfot? All right, Steamfot's trying to trip me up. Let's see. Big brown bear began biting babies, but brave brother Bob boldly bit back. Thank you for that, Bob. I needed that warm up. Sean Chadwick, $3 thumbs up, fist bump. Pear, what's going on, buddy? Appreciate you very, very much.
I don't know where Bob's living, though. That could be real.
That could be real.
And if babies are dogs, that could be very real.
Absolutely. All right. So, saltwater. Who wants to talk saltwater? It's either Saturday saltwater or Saturday scams. I don't know, but let's figure it out.
We'll probably end up getting more views that way. But
right.
I got a whole bunch of this Fritz stuff. I want it all, Mike.
Okay.
And how do you feel about this Fritz stuff?
It's fine. I mean, I've never used it. I'm very much an Instant Ocean Reef Crystals guy.
Mm-hmm.
But that's because, I found it for $39 on Amazon.
Yeah.
And so I was cheap about it, but fridge salt's fine.
Wait, Mike, you were cheap about something saltwater? I don't believe my ears on that one.
No, but it kind of irritated me is they had this big box, came in the bucket. I got the bucket, right? Mm-hmm. It was like $39, this 160-gallon bucket.
Wow.
And they made the point of putting it in a box to deliver it. Even though it had a handle with a lid on it, they had this big monster box they delivered it with. It was ridiculous. That's
funny. That is.
And it made it worse on the guy delivering it. Instead, he could just carry the bucket and drop it on my porch.
Yeah, absolutely. I had some tires delivered, something along those lines, that were packaged versus just wrapped together as I'd had them previously delivered with a shipping label on it, which made much more sense. So real quick, I did want to talk about when we were at the show, a gentleman was kind enough to mention Ed. He said, because he got a couple different types of salt at the show. And is that frozen or is he being really, really still with that product? There we go.
I look like I fell asleep.
But the gentleman was telling Ed, he said, now, whichever one you choose, make sure that you stick with that one. He said, don't, put Fritz in your tank and then, do your 20 whatever % water change with whatever other brand, whatever one you're using, stick with that.
Yep.
There's the other one that he got.
Yeah. And, I was like trying to find somebody that used this stuff to help them out. And then Kasha, did I say Kasha right?
Yes.
Okay. Kasha, she said, why don't you just use it for your brine shrimp? And it's like, that's what I use my Instant Ocean for. So that's brilliant.
Yeah, I was just going to tell you that. Use it for your brine shrimp.
Super smart. Thank you, Kasha. And that was awesome. But I did go to my local fish store and ask him about this. And he said that the Fritz is actually one of the more affordable ones also. It's harder for him to get it because they're always like low on supplies for some reason.
Gotcha.
So, okay, just wanted to share that.
No, it was fine. Like for me, it's just like I've always used the same thing because I just kind of know what to expect from it.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. So we've got a super chat from Pompeii Ranch, $5 super chat. Thank you for that, Pompeii. It says, hello. Just noticed my little discus skin seems to be peeling. Otherwise, no symptoms. I have a quarantine tank ready. What kind of meds? Anyone want to take it first?
I always go with Med Trio and just that's just the coaching for me.
Right.
Because, one, you have bacterial, which, even if you have peeling skin, right, you're going to have some sort of bacterial possibilities as well. I always go Med Trio.
Absolutely. You could definitely do Med Trio because you definitely want to deal with the potential and more than likely bacterial infections. One thing that I do like to use in addition to a lot of meds when there's any type of external damage to the fish or something that could be causing them pain is the C-Chem, and I always screw this up, I'm going to pull it up before I say it. It's the purple bottle, and every time I talk about it, I say the wrong thing. It's either Stress Coat or Stress Zyme, and I always say the wrong thing. I think Stress Zyme is the API product. I need to just keep the bottle on my desk for crying out loud. Stress Guard, I bet it's Stress Guard. Yep, CChem Stress Guard. And that's also got some antiseptic properties in it as well. So it helps kind of ease the fish a little bit while they're trying to heal. I will say on the bottle, I'm pretty sure it says do not use it with other medications. I've used it personally with a variety of other medications, including Medtrio, including ICX. Anytime I see that there's, again, damage externally to a fish, I like to throw it in there just because it seems to kind of soothe them a little bit, amongst other things. So anything you can do to keep a fish kind of a little bit calmer. Think about, when you're sick, they want you to go rest and try to take it easy and not be all stressed out. And so anything you can kind of do to help calm a fish down, I feel like when they're sick, it's just going to help that much more. But yeah, I would probably go ahead and move to the quarantine tank and do some treatment. If nothing else, even if you don't do the full trio, would definitely look at making sure that you don't get any type of infections and that Stress Guard. On to you, Ed.
Okay, well, I've got a bunch of these. I also won a whole ton of these bottles. And they're like different Fritz things.
Okay.
And I was wondering what Mike thought of each one of these. Oh, this is part 1. I should probably show you part 2. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, one should be alkalinity, one should be calcium, and one's probably magnesium.
Okay, so is this what the corals eat, or is this just what you dump in the tank after it's been RO'd to make everything?
Not dump that in once it's been RO'd. So what that stuff is, it's called 2-part. A bunch of different companies make it, and it's basically an additive for alkalinity and calcium. So before you do that, you would need to test. You would need to get a test kit and test your alkalinity and calcium.
Okay.
I would probably, honestly, I wouldn't mess with that stuff really unless you're doing SPS corals.
And I don't know what that is. So
that's, if you look behind me,
hard ones.
Coral is the hard one. They eat the calcium, and that's how they grow.
Well, I bought a whole thing of this stuff. My fish store sells it for $20 for the big thing. And I was going to dump it in my sump.
You could do that. I've never seen that. I've never seen that product, but it looks like, it looks like it's just basically dry rubble rock for your sump. It looks like.
Yeah. Kind of a place for pods and things to colonize and kind of be safe, if you will. I don't know in terms of like releasing calcium into the water what all it does, because I haven't looked at the label that closely. I've seen the product in stores, but it's not something I've actually picked up and looked at.
Yeah, I was thinking at first it was the stuff you put in a calcium reactor, the fresh coral that you put in there. But
I think Ed's reading it now. So.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't.
No, you're good, buddy. But
good.
yeah, it should have it on there if it's going to add any type of calcium or anything. But I'm pretty sure that is strictly designed, and I could be wrong. I'm wrong all the time, right? That's the nature of the beast. But I think it's strictly designed to provide some hiding places for things in your refugium. Give them a place to colonize, if you will.
Well, I just thought it looked like a great place also for bacteria to grow all over for my freshwater.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely.
So I was gonna do that with lava rock and bio balls,
and that would actually add, hardness to your water for freshwater.
And that's what I was thinking too, for my freshwater. I wasn't even thinking about using it for the salt, but
gotcha.
It's a good idea.
I misunderstood. I thought you were going to put it in your saltwater stuff. My apologies.
Well, when he said add calcium, then I thought, well, maybe I don't need this type of stuff. I could drop a couple of those in.
I wouldn't use that stuff unless you test for it.
Okay, here's something for monster-sized fish.
Okay.
Have you ever seen this product?
It looks like Fritz Zyme. Yeah, that's just the
Is this kind of like the stuff you drop in your tank from API that's like supposed to make your fish happier when you first?
Yeah, it's kind of what it looks like.
Okay.
Again, I don't know what I would do with that.
I think they've got a lot of new products they've come out with.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've really messed around with a lot of the products. And when we go see the tank, I run it very.
So I'm going to tell Ed, like I tell people when they message me about how to use a medication, read the label. That's going to give you most of your information.
I've actually used that one.
I like to ask Mike first.
No.
I've used that one, so I know what that one is. The Fritzheim 9. I've used that. That's good stuff. So
now, what would you use it?
I use it to help cycle the tank when I first set it up.
Okay, that's what I figured, since it's got the beneficial stuff. Okay, cool.
I know what that is.
I'm going to grab a couple things. Go ahead.
This is the last bottle I got.
Yep, that goes along with the other two things that you started out with.
Oh, the part 1 and 2.
Yep.
Well,
so there's a relationship in your reef tank between calcium, alkalinity, and magnesium, and they all kind of maintain a balance with each other. You don't really want to throw them out of whack, especially if you're not testing for it.
I got you. I was hoping that something was going to be coral food.
No. I honestly have been feeding a lot of just the extreme and co-op fry food and stuff like that, honestly.
Fry food to your corals?
Yeah. I mean, not really to the coral, just the tank. I mean, I haven't been really like spot feeding the corals. I don't really have corals that are like that specific. I mean, it's zoanthids and there's a leather coral in there. So it's nothing that, they can just eat out of the water column.
Okay.
I'm not sitting there, with a pipette, like when we saw it was the sun coral we saw at the show, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where the non-photosynthetic, I mean, you have to feed those constantly. I mean, there's guys who set up like refrigerators with like flow through systems to feed those things.
Oh, jeepers. I'm glad you told me about those.
I was like, you don't want that.
So cool looking now.
It's cool looking, but it's a lot of work.
And I'd rather not have something that looks great, but it's a lot of hard work.
This is kind of
I have too many tanks for that.
Yeah, this is why the saltwater guys have like one tank, right?
Mm-hmm.
You go down the rabbit hole of non-photosynthetic corals and stuff, and you're out there feeding it 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, it's like having fry constantly, essentially, in terms of how much you've got to feed the darn thing.
Right.
But Fish Guy Nick, it's good to see you. Asking if you got a new camera, looks good. It hasn't been around since back in April. Been super busy, dude. I understand life gets hectic. I'm glad to see you. And yeah, it is a new camera since then, and I'm glad that it's looking good. That was a huge thank you to Corey Krim Co-op. Actually sent that out to myself and sent one to Ed. He's mentioned it, so I know I can say that without anything. I'm allowed. Whatever.
We kept it a secret for a long time because we didn't want to somebody gives you something that you don't want to let people know if he doesn't want to give it to everybody or he's afraid of people saying, hey, I want one, so that's why we didn't say it.
Yeah, but he's mentioned it on his stream, so I can comfortably say it now. But yeah, that's it, and it is a much better picture, and I'm glad you noticed, and I'm glad you're back, Fish Guy Nick. Furloughs Aquatics was saying, holy crap, I'm not used to seeing James with a short goatee, LOL. Quit laughing, Eric. I know you got a longer beard than I do. I don't know what I'm going to do with myself.
It took a while.
For a second. I'm like, wait a minute. What happened to the beard? He's like all clean cut now.
I used to be accustomed to it, but then, I kind of came into this with the beard, kind of, which if you go back to some of the original videos, I didn't have like the beard, but, it's like Ed with yours, it kind of became a thing where normally you would have yours for the sports season and then shave it off and then go back and grow it and dye it. And being on YouTube, it became a thing. And finally I was like, normally I would have this shaved and I want to shave it. So I appreciate those of you all that were supportive on Ed's stream Saturday when I kind of popped the announcement that I was going to do that. But definitely an adjustment period, even for myself, because it's been a while.
You look like you lost 50 pounds.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. It looks a little better in here. I felt really round-faced at first. I was joking with Mrs. Fever. There's those like animated fruit that all have the big-eyed smiley face, and there's like a grape and a strawberry and a blueberry, and I feel like I'm the blueberry on there. That's just a big blue bubble with the smile on it. But I appreciate that very much.
It didn't have anything to do with basketball, did it?
No. Yeah, I needed to feel younger after that one. My back is still not.
Can we see your elbow?
The elbow's fine, so the elbow's doing good.
Oh, it is getting better.
I've gotten most of the pattern out of there, so you can't really tell what kind of pattern they have on the floor on the basketball court anymore. No, elbow's good. The back just needs a little bit of time, and we'll be in good shape.
Yeah, that was both of us. That was a sad state of affairs.
So I needed to feel younger. Thank you, Patty's Petite Tanks. I appreciate that. That definitely helps me feel better again. It's an adjustment, but hey, it is what it is. You see here, Select Pet says, hey guys, just left the fish club meeting, and some of the guys were talking about meeting those fish guys from Tennessee that travel all over. That one guy who has the red beard. They must have been talking about Ed and Sean Peck.
Oh, I don't think so.
No, yeah. No, we need to get back up that way at some point. There's a lot going on right now. A lot of stuff kind of jam-packed in the last couple of months of the season, if you will, before everything dies off for the wintertime. But, we are always up to try and get to different club events and swaps and things of that nature. And I appreciate hearing that. That's awesome that, people remembered us. And
they're a super cool crew.
They are. They really are.
I would like to just sit and hang out with them all day long. I think that'd be awesome.
Absolutely.
Eat pizza.
Well, I think it's like the weekend before the OCA, we have our auction here up in Detroit. So
absolutely
scheduled and ready to go. So
that's awesome.
It's going to be interesting. It'll be the first auction in our area since the pandemic.
Oh yeah, because y'all have been doing a lot of like online type stuff. Wow. If I remember correctly. Yeah.
Now, how much money do you normally take to a auction?
It depends on what I'm looking for and what kind of how many tanks I have open.
Gotcha.
So it's usually it's about $300.
Oh, okay.
It's not. I don't take like $6,000 and show up at an auction. Or like $5 and just sit all day and like stare at the ceiling either.
I think that was a shot at James.
I spent under $600 at the Big Fish Deal auction. Okay, they really liked me though. I'm sure they remembered me too.
I don't know. There's some around here. I don't know if I could take you to, because I think you might overspend your bounds, not in money wise, but in fish.
Yeah, well, I've downsized a lot of things, and I've got to say, and you all can back me up here. Ed's been to both. I've been really good about not buying things lately.
Great.
We went to Chattanooga. I didn't bring anything home, as much as I'd love to support the people there and buy some really cool stuff. I knew I didn't need to add anything right now, so I didn't. Aquashella brought home, a couple T-shirts and just random things like that, but didn't bring a whole bunch of livestock home that I definitely. I could have gone crazy with that, or a whole bunch of wood. Let the jokes roll in the chat, right? But I've been managing it better, getting the fever under control. It's all right to catch the fever, but you don't want to, burn yourself out. I guess is a good way to put it.
You don't want to you don't want to go redline it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the fish that I was looking for that I would have spent money on would have been green Moscows, green Deltas, or red wine blue guppy. Because those are the things that I'm looking for right now. And I just need a green guppy. It's not necessary,
So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, buddy.
It's all right.
One of the things I am doing, whereas I've kind of always taken the opposite approach, and I will set up a tank based around the fish that I have or fish that, I'm going to get. What I'm doing now is I'm actually pulling down a bunch of tanks, and there will be footage. That's part of why it's taking forever to do it. But I'm going to be resetting a bunch of tanks, and I'm going to be setting them up and doing the scaping and the planting and all that in a way that I find aesthetically pleasing. We won't say that they're award-winning aquascapes, but I'm going to do all that. And then I'm going to sit and I'm going to think, and I'm going to pull an Ed, and I'm going to let him sit there with just some plants and stuff in him for a couple months. And in that time, I'm just going to go, okay, what fish would thrive really well in there, but also look really good in there? What would fit that environment? And then I'm going to buy the fish for the environment versus where I've always bought fish. Then I'm like, oh, I need to do this for them. So, that's something new that I'm trying. And I'm also doing that with the saltwater, since we are, saltwater Saturday, although this is a little bit more laid back and open. I'm moving my saltwater stuff into a 20 long from the fluval spec. I don't have the flex. So that's going to give a little bit more room because the zoanthus and things are doing really well. And of course, green star polyps being what they are, taking off everywhere. Mike's like, yeah, you shouldn't have put those in the tank. That's like duckweed. But so that's one of the many things I'm working on.
We've got a good question from Fantastic Freaks for Mike.
All right. You want to grab it, Ed? You want me to read
it? Fish room fever. Is there a difference difference than saltwater, and how long would you let brackish water cycle? Mine sat for 2 weeks. How stable is it in the first week? I think it's ready, but looks for two opinions.
I would trust your test kits and get a second opinion, but it's the same cycle as in freshwater.
Yeah.
But the difference too, and I think more importantly in saltwater, and we'll talk about that when we go see the reef tank, but you have to get to the STT, and I've just totally blanked on what it stands for.
Season tank time.
Yeah, I totally blanked out.
Mike, I'm going to have to report back that you didn't have that one memorized.
Then I'm sitting there, I'm like I had it on the tip of my head, and I'm like, what is it?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what we've talked about before, because the cycle is one of those things that I can go off on a tangent for 45 minutes in what truly is cycled and what we think cycled is, but season tank time really is what we're looking for here. So yeah, I think you're probably looking good. Trust your test kits, like Mike said. I have not run the stability before, but from what I've seen on it, your cycle should be moving along. Just keep in mind that even if you get it quote unquote cycled, you get the process going. If there's then nothing to feed the cycle, there's nothing to be converted in the tank, there's no waste of any kind, you're going to kill your cycle, because then your bacteria has died off because it's had no food. But you being you, fantastic. I know that you're well aware of that, but I just mentioned that for anybody that might be popping in, listening, and might not have a full understanding of the cycle. I feel like that's one of those things that it takes a while to really truly figure it out, because there are so many varying voices and opinions on what quote unquote cycled really is. But yeah, great question. As always, it's good to see you, buddy. I almost wore your shirt tonight, and then I remembered I had mentioned I was going to wear prime time tonight. So we've got you next on the rotation. That's, I think, what Ed and I are going to do on the Thursday shows. We're going to have a shirt of the week where we show off our shirt, because people always are into seeing what shirts we're wearing.
I'll get you guys a golf shirt at some point.
There we go. Love it. Golf shirt. Hey, I would love that. I would rock it too. Misfit Reptiles and Aquatics. Good to see you, Freaky Fish Lady. What is up? Aquatic Marine Kenny, what is going on? I hope you're doing well. I text you just kind of check in, make sure you're doing all right. For anybody that doesn't know, our buddy Aquatic Marine there, that's Kenny. He's my local fish store owner, and Aquatic Marine is my local fish store. And he just had a full knee replacement. So hoping you're doing well. Glad to see that you're in the chat. So we know that you're alive enough to at least function and operate YouTube. So very much appreciate that, buddy. If you want a good laugh, Kenny, go look on the community tab for the members. I posted a video of me riding a mechanical shark at Aquashella. I know you'll get a kick out of that, buddy. So that'll at least give you something to chuckle over.
Though, it's amazing. There was a guy I worked with who had a hip replaced, and he was back in a month like nothing happened.
Oh, nice. Wow. Well, hopefully we can get Kenny back at it.
My mom, she had both her knees replaced and a hip, and she loves it all. Well, I don't know about the hip, but she loves her knees.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Mike, you said that you have got a tank set up for us to tour.
Yep.
You want
so
to do that?
I'm going to go head out to the barn so I'll be a moment.
Alrighty.
And then we can pull it. We can go ahead and we'll pull it up and we'll talk out there.
Absolutely.
Be a moment, and I'll be out there in just a moment.
Sounds good. All right, so we're gonna back that off of there. And then we'll give him a minute. I've already got his other camera behind backstage, behind the scenes. So when I see him over there, we'll pull it up. Freaky Fish Lady says, both of mine have been replaced and I feel bionic. You're right. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, seriously, man, I've been thinking about you. Really missed you at Aquashella. I know you had potentially talked about going to that. Who knows? If you're up for it, Dallas, talk to me, buddy. That'd be a fun time. But, we got to see how your knee heals up. First and foremost, like I told you before, take it easy and don't be so hard-headed. Let that thing heal up. Sarah J. Sievers says, my GSP is not growing and quit coming out. It's the only coral in the tank, not doing well. Any suggestions on what the issue could be? So the only time I've ever noticed any problems, and that's a green star polyp for anybody that's not familiar with GSP. Green star polyp. Dude, Kenny, you're awesome. I will get to that here in just a minute. Very much appreciated, brother. Didn't have to do that. But the only time I've seen issues with my green star polyp was when I needed to get some more minerals in the water, when I needed to do a little bit more of a water change to kind of get some of those nutrients revamped, if you will. So you could try that. Try and I don't want to say get fresh water in there because it's salt, but get some of those minerals back in there. The thing about like any fast growing type of aquatic creature in terms of like corals, plants, and freshwater, things of that nature, the things that grow really quick tend to suck out a lot of whatever nutrients it is that they use. So it's really easy for there to become a nutrient deficiency in the water, whatever the particular thing is that they're after or things that they're after, when you've got something that is a fast grower. And I know like typically green star polyps, at least in my experience, those have always spread out a lot. So if you think about it in terms of if I'm burning a lot of energy off, I need some sort of way to replace the nutrients that I'm absorbing. So I need more food on my plate, if you will. Let me go ahead and pull this up here.
All right.
Actually,
so can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
All right. So I do apologize for the portrait version of this. I tried getting it in landscape, but StreamYard won't let me. But we'll kind of walk through the tank a little bit. So you can see here we got the clownfish. And then if you can see here at the zoanthids here, they're actually kind of closed up right now. So something's irritated them. I don't know exactly what it is. But they've been this the way the last couple of days. But I'm going to go ahead and kind of leave them the way they are. And then we do have some other frags up here. I don't know how well you can see them, but they're kind of small. But they're coming along. And then we got the leather coral over here. So those are kind of the corals that kind of have gotten picked up and are here right now.
So now somebody that's looking at this is maybe not familiar with saltwater. What would you classify these at? Would you say that that's a bunch of beginner corals or?
Yeah, they're pretty much beginner corals.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, they're all fairly easy to maintain in my experience, and not a whole lot goes into them versus like your stony corals.
Yeah, and I've re-aquascaped this tank since the last time I've shown it on video. I was getting a lot of algae, and so I wanted to get kind of open it up a little bit. Because I had big rock piles in the corner here.
Absolutely.
And rock piles on the other side, and it just really didn't really go. It wasn't getting enough flow through it. I was getting a ton of algae, and I still have quite some. Like if you look at the rocks here, you can see quite a bit of algae. But you've got the I put a cleanup crew in here too of hermit crabs.
Is that what you use to fight the algae? Is hermit crabs?
Yeah, that and more flow, and basically improving the filtration. So we're gonna lift the hood up here. We'll go under the hood.
All right.
And I actually am using the Seachem titles, believe it or not, which it's not a normal thing, but. And then I've got the lights here. These are just the Reef Bright strips, that go all the way across. But I've been using these titles, and they've done pretty well. They don't put a lot of bubbles in the water, just from the way the tank's set up.
I mean, just looking at the tank, if you had told me without showing me that you were running, hang-on backs on it, I probably, not that I wouldn't have believed you, but I would have been surprised. That's awesome. They're doing such a great job.
Yeah, I mean, they're really good at, like, you don't, and they provide more flow. So I kind of was like, you know what?
That's awesome. Well, how many do you have on that size of a tank?
They're 2 110s.
And how big of a tank is that?
That is a 180.
Okay. Well, I've got 110 for my 50. So let's hope it doesn't overdo it.
And then I have a sump over here. We'll go over to the other part of the equipment here. So I've got the sump over here. So basically the water drains from the tank, and I still got to do wire stuff, but it goes into the filter sock, which then goes through the sump here, goes into this refugium, which honestly hasn't done much. I saw Bob was in the chat earlier, Steamfot, and I tried some Vallisneria in here, and it looked like it's kind of expired. After he had a members video where he was swimming in the ocean, so I don't know if that was really Vallisneria or not, but I did a little experiment and put some Vallisneria in here to see if it would grow. And I've got a little bit of Catamorpha algae in the corner there, and this is just a Phoenix Stingray light that I've got on it.
So again, this is very efficient, but still a fairly simple setup when you're talking about saltwater. This is not, high-tech thousands and thousands of dollars like some people do. This is something that's very affordable and, I would dare say budget-friendly, and that most people could put together at home that have been working on freshwater stuff in the hobby.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing we do have here is the skimmer, and I'm sorry about all the wires and the mask, but
shame on you.
That's a pretty robust skimmer.
That is a big boy. It really is.
So, and then I just got a Mag 9 return pump in here.
So I want to grab a couple things from the chat real quick. As you were walking out to the barn, Big Boss Man Kenny from Aquatic Marine throwing down that $50 super sticker with the Boss Hippo jumping out, just throwing money, making it rain. Thank you so much for that, Kenny. Really didn't have to do that, but very much appreciated.
Hold on.
Super awesome of you. Also, I don't know if you saw it in the chat. You may just be listening, Kenny, but I know Aquatic Marine's got an online setup now. If you're selling those titles online, because I know you've got them in store, do me a favor. Let me know. We can grab a link. I'm sure one of the awesome moderators will snag that up because I love to support you guys any way I can. But thank you so much for the super sticker, buddy. And just get well. The best thing you could do for me is to get well. We got things to plan. We got shows to plan. We got events to talk about. And I've got a couple of ideas to work with you on your channel and my channel. So heal up, my friend. Fantastic Freaks with $5 super chat says my aquarium co-op test strip said we're good, but I put a few Anubias plants in with a sponge, so I was thinking it was okay. Thanks, fellas. Stay fantastic. Absolutely, you stay fantastic, Austin. Yeah, you should be good. Love the coop strips. I've not found any problems with them. I've found the readings to be true. So if they're saying you're good, you've got the other stuff going on, you should be good to go, my friend. So rock and roll with that thing, and I can't wait to see what you set up. Right. Sarah, you are more than welcome. And there we go. Thank you. Zen found it. Zen did your posting link for title filters on the Aquatic Marine website. So if you don't have a local fish store of your own, you want to support a local fish store, why not support one that supports me, right? Aquatic Marine. Thank you. Appreciate that, Zen, and of course our buddy Kenny. Sorry, Mike, I wanted to grab those because it kind of happened as you were going out to the barn.
No worries.
Too far ahead, my friend.
You should have muted me as I almost fell on my chair.
Oh yeah, I probably should have. That's my fault.
No, I'll show it to you. So I have this rolling seat, and I mistimed where it was at.
That's never fun.
So that was almost really bad. You almost saw the ceiling.
So Select Pet's got a good question, saying, do they make an orange film like a tint or something to put on the glass to give the effect of the Aquashella glasses?
Yes, there's a filter you can put on your phone. I was gonna put it on for this. I'm gonna do a little bit of a shameless plug, I guess. But if you watch tomorrow's video, you'll see a couple of reef tanks in that video from Aquashella with the orange filter on the camera phone.
Yeah, those are definitely awesome. Do you have that scheduled already where we could drop a link, or do we just need to tell them to stay tuned?
It'll
to
come
your
out
channel?
tomorrow at about 10:30.
Okay, all right. So if you somehow you aren't subscribed to Fish Tank Barn YouTube channel, go check out Fish Tank Barn. Keep an eye out for that video. I think it's going to be awesome. They usually are.
But you'll be see some interesting things in that video. Speaking of the shark, and there might be a unicorn floaty sighting as well.
Yeah, people love that. People love that.
So definitely thank you for letting me use the footage of that. And you may see a couple of other YouTubers playing air hockey as well.
Definitely. You know, we may need to do a unicorn floaty race next year.
There you go. I did that with my kids. We did like an Olympics, kind of like a medley, where like you had to have different floaties, and I raced like one of the kids on it. It was kind of funny.
I would have paid to see that. I would have paid to see that. I was just picturing.
I think there's a video of it somewhere. I'll have to see if I can find it. I'll send it to you.
Do you think he was asking if there's a film that you can put on your fish tank?
I think he was. I'm not entirely sure. I've been kind of looking in the background here. But honestly, I like the blue light look on mine without a filter. So I kick in the actinics and, you know, just go with that. And I really enjoy the way the colors pop under that when I'm wanting to do some viewing or something in particular. I would be willing to bet you could probably find a film. Or if nothing else, you know, just throw the cool glasses on and hang out in your chair and kick back and relax with your shades in style.
So, yeah, so basically I'm running here basically one like 50-50 light and then two actinics.
Nice.
So, I don't like the really, really blue color. So,
I do what I don't.
You know what? I didn't talk about the other fish in here either. You know, you guys can see the tang. And then
those
there's
guys
a
have
big
gotten
in here as well. That's been floating around.
Now, do you just keep one clownfish in there, or do you have a pair?
I just have one. Right now, I'll probably get another one. What I'll do is I'll get a smaller one. And what'll happen is that clownfish will become the female. The small one will become the male.
Is this one morphed yet, or is it just in limbo?
Not sure actually, because he came in with another fish. Unfortunately, that fish didn't make it from my saltwater breeding setup. I think this one actually is the female. Now that I think about it, I think this fish that actually spawned as a female.
Does it have like a gray body? It's pretty neat looking.
No, it's just white. It's probably the lights.
Oh, okay.
It's really humid right now outside. You know, I've got all the dehumidifiers and stuff running, which I do in the summer anyway. But still, it's still pretty humid in here. It gets on the glass actually, even if you clean it.
Wow.
But there's the tang. I don't know. I mean, since we're out here, is there anything else you guys want to see?
How long's this tank been around?
I set it up beginning of summer.
Cool.
So
Are these
still going through its season tank time, right?
Are these the corals that you picked up in Aquashella?
Yeah.
Oh, very nice.
Sorry, I am here. I'm looking for this film.
Yeah, I can't see. I'll go ahead and I'll show you the rest of the barn real quick, or at least the downstairs part while you're looking. Kind of
Sure.
give you a couple of tanks because a lot's changed in here. You know, it's still not done by any means, and some of the tanks are a little dirty. But I've been playing around with a lot of foam backgrounds.
Oh, wow.
So, you got this one with the, I moved all my African cichlids in here. This tank I've re-aquascaped it, but it's pretty much the same. But
now, are you making these foam backgrounds or are you purchasing them?
no, I'm making them.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I've been making a lot of them because it's just easier. I'll show you another one. I'm not gonna do all of them, or I didn't do all the tanks, but I did a lot of them.
You probably save a butt ton of money.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that looks
But,
amazing.
You got the spray paint. I just use spray paint and spray foam, and I use the what is it? The closed cell foam behind it, so it has something to stick to the glass.
Gotcha.
I mean, you did a great job. It looks fantastic.
And then we'll look at a couple other ones. I kind of played with this one too. This is African cichlids.
Do you ever sprinkle any sand on it before it's cured?
No, but I should. I saw that at the show.
Oh, okay.
And
I didn't even notice it at the show.
Yeah, there was the tank right in front of the booth. They had made a background out of it with sand.
Oh, okay.
And this is the other tank, and I got to pull a piece of PVC pipe out, but.
Well, you could just pretend like that PVC pipe is coming from a factory or something next door.
Right.
Yeah, I got to clean up some of the glass on these, but we got to show you since we're here.
So Ginger says, great stuff, pond foam and Krylon fusion, or what?
Basically.
Very good. Very nice. I mean, they look amazing. Like, they look... I know they take a little bit of time to put those things together, but I'm sure that it pays off in terms of what you save on trying to order those custom backgrounds.
Oh, yeah. There's some still that won't have it. Like this tank here, it's just going to be the black.
I will say I did some looking around for that orange tint film. I didn't really see anything viable, but that doesn't mean you couldn't maybe go to like a car tinting website and find some orange tint that might work the same way, but I don't know for sure.
So, all right. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll head back in if you guys don't have any other questions on the tank.
Sounds good, Mike. I really appreciate the walk around. That tank is looking really, really good. They all look beautiful, and I'm loving the custom backgrounds.
All right, so I'm gonna leave the show from this one and bring my phone in.
Sounds good.
I'll join you back inside.
All righty. Let's add Ed back in here. Oh no, it's just me. Exit solo layout. There we go.
Krylon fusion, totally safe for your fish tank.
Absolutely, just let it dry.
Yeah, and then pond foam. You can get the brown stuff, or not really brown. It's more like cream color. That you use like around your house, but you can also get black.
Yeah.
So I prefer to start off with the black stuff.
Absolutely. I think it's easier to work with that black background color already. VentCow74, as soon as Mike gets back with us, we will ask him that question regarding the build up behind the backgrounds. It's kind of nice having a little bit more laid back stream. We have about 30 people in here. That's awesome. A little bit slower, chill vibe going on than the usual rapid fire. Lefty3213A says, question: for someone who wanted to get into saltwater for the first time, what tank size and fish would you suggest?
Ooh, that's a good question.
That is a good question. We've talked about that some.
That's me.
So this is one of those things you hear a lot of people say with just fish keeping in general. Get the biggest tank you can afford. But saltwater is really one of those that look at what you're able to do in terms of space. Of course, it's a factor, and budget. You really don't want to start off with a 5 or 10. You can do a 20, like a 20 long, and make that work. But again, it goes back to the bigger volume of water you have, the more room you have for variables. And when you're new to something, it's nice to have that little bit of leeway. So if you make a small mistake, it remains a small mistake and you can correct it. Versus if you're working with 5 gallons of water, that small mistake can have a much bigger impact. I really like 40 breeders. I like the layout. I also like what you can do with the lighting and a nice 40 breeder with your corals and stuff, you don't have to get a super strong light to get deep. Whereas like, I don't know, like my 65, which is 55, just a little bit taller, needs a little bit more punch in the lighting so that it gets down to the bottom if I've got stuff at the bottom. But I think either of those sizes are fine. You could do a 29. In terms of fish, in my opinion, I would say go browse your local pet store or go browse whatever website that you intend to purchase from. And just kind of look around and see what they've got and see what catches your fancy. And then also take that into consideration with what tank size you want to go with. Because I could say, get a pair of clownfish. If you absolutely hate clownfish and you're like, I can't stand that stupid Nemo fish, that's a horrible suggestion. So kind of look around. Keep in mind there are a lot of saltwater fish that get fairly good size. So, you know, I know you, and I know you would do your research before you purchased anything. But this just goes out to everybody. Just make sure you research what you're getting into. That way you don't end up with a 29-gallon tank and a tang that's going to get 12 inches. You know, that's the last thing you want.
Yeah, I mean, there's some that get even bigger than that.
Oh, yeah. But what do you gentlemen think for a first-time saltwater person, tank size and fish recommendation? Then I had another question for you, Mike, that we'll go back to.
I would say a 90. Honestly, spend the money, get a 90. Just
Nice.
It gives you more room to add more things.
Yep.
And it depends on what fish you want too. Because if you want tangs, you really shouldn't put tangs in anything less than a 6-foot tank.
Yeah.
Well, and I was originally going to go with a 20 tall and just have 2 clownfish. But this guy down here convinced me to go bigger. So my tank that I was going to set up for my puffers, I'm going to give to the saltwater eventually. And it's a 50 tall. And I mean like a 50 column.
Yeah, and so Mike touched on something very valid there. If you get into saltwater and you enjoy it, it's the same principle as freshwater. You're going to find more things that you want, more things you want to add. So it's nice to have like a 90-gallon or even a 75. Because I know those could be easier for some people to find. Similar footprint, not quite as tall. Allowing yourself that extra room to grow your hobby out in that tank is really, really nice. Otherwise, you end up with, okay, I bought a 20 or even I bought a 40 breeder. That Fish Room Fever guy, he said, you start with a 40 breeder. And I got it. And now my zoanthers are going everywhere. And I don't have enough room to put any more corals in. And I really want these other corals. I wish I'd have started with a 90-gallon. So, yeah, it just goes back to how much room do you have and what's kind of your budget that you're looking at. But it definitely is nice when you can add things in and have space for things to grow out and bring in new additions.
Shy has I'm sorry. Well, I was going to read a question, so you go and add to his.
Oh, no. I was actually going to read the same one, I think.
Well, we had one more. Mike was walking out, though, that I wanted to grab before we get it. It's from MedCal74M, and he was asking if you run into issues with buildup behind those backgrounds, like to try to.
No, there's silicone to the tank, so you're not getting behind them. So the way I make those is I actually silicone the base to the tank first.
Gotcha.
Then I spray them with the foam. Yeah, I'll either do that or I'll make it all as one piece outside and then paint it. But then I actually silicone the sides and the bottoms and everything as well, so water can't get behind it. So it's all
you're doing it inside the tank as you make it.
Sometimes, and sometimes a lot of times I'll make it outside though.
Okay.
There's been a couple of occurrences where I've made it and then I'll cut it in half. That's what I usually do. And then I'll just silicone a bead where the cut line is. Or not silicone, but spray. And then I'll have to repaint that little piece of it.
Yeah, I was wondering what type of smell this stuff puts off.
That's not bad. It's the paint was bad. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, and we did have a question from Sarah J. Sieber. Says, do you know about how long does it take for Oscillators clownfish to actually change from male to female when you have 2 very young fish added to a tank?
I think it just depends. I think it depends. They have to really, it's a social negotiation, call it. So say you put 2 YouTubers in a room, say you put myself and you put Corey in a room as 2, there's a social interaction. There's a negotiation sort of, and the bigger, badder fish becomes the female, and the more timid one becomes the male.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you still kind of win if you're in the room with Corey.
Well, I'm big as an example. As a bad example, but you know what I mean.
I know.
You know
I was
what
just thinking. At least Mike gets to
you
still
have
be
big
the
channel,
boy.
little channel, right?
Yeah.
Right.
The timid boy.
That's where I was going with it. That
Yeah. I know. I was just teasing.
Right. So you have so basically one wins out based on the social negotiation. One's bigger, badder than the other one, and that turns out to it turns into the female, and the other one becomes the male. And if that male were to we're gonna say, use our YouTube example, stop doing YouTube, and say another smaller channel starts, that smaller channel / clownfish will become the male, and then that male becomes the female.
It's a very, very interesting process, and I think you've nailed it perfectly, especially given that you're the one that's bred clownfish before. So my input is not needed on that one. But yeah, that was very, very well put.
And there's other fish that go the opposite, where it's the male is the most dominant. And there's some that are like us, where they're born male and female. They have scientific names for them that I always forget. I'll hear them and I'll be like, "Oh yeah, that's what that is."
Yeah, that's what that was. MSC Aquatics, thank you so much, saying like the new look. I appreciate that. And there's Miss Fever asking, I really want to know what everyone's favorite type of tang is.
I've always owned orange. Now it depends which definition. If you're using the saltwater definition of tang, I'm gonna have to say I have to say the blue tang, because I've every time I've set up a tank, I buy that fish.
They are beautiful. They are definitely beautiful. I'm trying to think of what the name of the tang is. I'd have to see it to remember.
Like the clown or the or what's that one?
Well, it's not the Soho Tang, but the Soho Tang is one of my favorites. That's what I was looking up. I can't think of what it's called. But Soho is definitely a beautiful tang. So that's going to be the one that I'm going to go with, since I can't think of the name that I want. Though it's more elongated and it's a big fish that I wouldn't actually probably ever have a tank to put one in. But since I can't come up with the other one, that's the answer I'm given. Of course, yellow tangs are kind of a classic beauty. So
that's what I was going to say, is the yellow tang, just because, and they do a good job working for you and everything else.
Absolutely.
Now let's flip the question now. Which is your favorite Lake Tanganyika cichlid?
The one that I don't have to care for.
I don't know.
Those are also tangs.
Oh, well, I don't like them. They kill each other.
Not all of them.
No, they don't. It's a lot of it's individual.
Yeah, that's true.
Well,
yeah, I just had a bunch of jerk ones.
All right, Mike, you're already showing off being the saltwater experts. You can't break out all your African cichlid knowledge and make us look really bad. Yeah, at least it's 37 people in here, not 100, so it's not quite as bad for us. But now Ed and I are just kind of leaving.
Sorry.
Mike's got the channel. Zipper Chromus that, okay? No, I'm just kidding, buddy.
No.
I'm just having fun.
Here, see, we're gonna silence you out now. Here you go. You've been silent. You should actually mute me, and then I'll keep talking.
I love it. No, it's not my area of expertise, as I've said many, many times. That is most definitely Mrs. Fever's area. It's just, I don't know, it's not my thing. I have a lot of things that I get into, and I just had bad personal experiences with the African cichlids, and so that's where I left it at. I need to do more researching into them for the sake of researching into them, because they really are beautiful fish. So
there's a lot of them that are just, all right, Ed?
Sorry, I tried to hit mute, but it was too fast. Darn it.
There's a lot of them. Honestly, yellow labs are just easy, but you get a lot of them that are just like angry, and I don't know.
Yeah, and like I've got the African cichlids they sent home with me from Aquashella, Orlando, And I mean, they're all doing well. They're not fighting with each other. They're doing just fine. Prior to some of my previous experiences with things beating the crap out of each other. So that's nice. It's nice to have them kind of cohabitating well in the tank.
Yeah.
Now, are they a lot of peacocks?
I don't know, Ed. It's not my thing. There's some really pretty African cichlids that they asked me to take home from the show, so I took them home.
I've had best luck with those, and I think that's what you ended up with too. Or well, and then like the labs are nice.
Yeah.
Are pretty.
Yeah.
So.
ACI, like those are like, you know, you get into like bumblebees and aratus and all that. Like, you know, every single time there's always like the venustus and you know, all those big, you know, tank busters. And though I do want to mess around with predator halves at some point, just because I've never done them.
No, absolutely. And I'm sure you would have better luck with that than I would. Just want to say hi, Amber. Big City Bettis is in here saying, hey, y'all, taking a quick break from the packing madness to pop in and send some love. Hope everyone is having a great night. 36 hours to U-Haul time, crunch mode. Keep finding more crap to pack. Amber, good luck. Don't overdo it. Have a safe journey on your travels to your new home.
Definitely.
That clown tang is a really pretty tang.
It is beautiful tang. Misfit Reptiles and Aquatics is wanting to know if you keep any fire mouse by chance, Mike.
I do not. I have something close called the Therichthys maculopennis, which is sort of similar, but not quite.
Okay. Misfits, Reptiles, and Aquatics, welcome to the Fish Room Fever family. I know you did that just so you can see that footage of me riding the mechanical shark. I hope you enjoy it, get a laugh out of it. I know other people have. But seriously, thank you for joining the team, becoming a member, becoming part of the Fish Room Fever family. Very much appreciate that. Like I mentioned before, I don't know if it was before you got in the stream, there have been some issues with YouTube sending out the members-only notifications. So if you check the community page from time to time when you're looking for something, I have been posting some things on there, but for whatever reason, YouTube decided to send it out to absolutely 0 of the members. So they're like 0 for 70 something 2 days in a row. So just a heads up, because I do have some more footage I'm going to be releasing throughout the week of just random things over the past couple of years that I never turned into videos, but I think you all would enjoy. Again, part of it's, you know, like me and Kenny are walking around in a mineral springs trying to catch fish while we're talking to Ed and Father Fish up on the bank. But Scuba Stevo's Aquatics, it's good to see you in here, my friend. We met Scuba Stevo down at Aquashella in Chicago, or I say down, up at Aquashella in Chicago, for us anyways. Appreciate you coming through. It was awesome meeting you, man.
Yeah, and I'm always afraid of that one, the powder blue.
Yeah.
Just because those seem to be ick magnets.
But yeah.
Ooh.
And so we've
and saltwater ick's a bad convict
that's
tank.
just to say we've talked a little bit about it, but saltwater ick and freshwater ick are like entirely different monsters to deal with. That's a pretty one.
Yeah. Convict tangs are neat.
Those are ones that are actually fairly inexpensive.
Oh. Do they get huge?
Not really. They're like a yellow tangish size, from what I can remember.
This guy's real pretty.
Bring your checkbook.
Yeah. Yeah. Anytime you look at saltwater and go, wow, that's a beautiful fish. I hope you brought your checkbook.
No, that was a really bring your checkbook. That one's probably about $1,000 fish. I'm gonna guess.
Not going in my tank.
You know, one thing I used to have fun doing is going to like the live aquaria diver's den and like looking to see if I could find the most expensive fish, like the you know, the $4,000 soapfish or something like that.
It's funny you mentioned him. I was literally just sliding my live aquaria koozie onto my can here. Which,
and, you know, what was it? It was something. It was called the Dr. Seuss fish, I think. Oh. And it was some like $4,000 or something like that. It was insane. Because a lot of the fish, if you start getting into some of the really rare fish, I mean, they're like the peppermint angel. It's like a $25,000 fish because some guy has to go catch it with a rebreather down about 300 to 400 feet down in the ocean, and then not try to die going back up, going without getting the bends and everything else.
Yep.
And
you get into.
Go ahead. Sorry.
And then
I was just saying you get into some interesting things in terms of simply getting the fish. Like you mentioned, sometimes it's one of those fish like, I wonder if anybody had to die to get this fish in my aquarium.
People have. There's been divers that have not made it. I mean, because what they have to do to the fish as well is once they catch it, you have to actually needle the swim bladder as you go up. Let a certain amount of air out of the swim bladder as you go up, so that the fish can actually have the proper balance and everything as it gets further and further up, closer to sea level.
James and I saw this guy in I think it was Huntsville, Alabama.
I think so.
At a fish store there, and it was really surprising how pretty it was for such ugly colors.
So Mrs. Fever says to tell you to look up the Achilles Tang, Ed. She thinks you'll love it.
She knows a lot about Achilles. I had to do that.
That's funny.
Oh, she's going to hurt you for that one. No. Yeah, it's a beautiful fish. Most definitely.
And I actually got a kind of funny story. I'll go for story time for a minute.
Go for it.
I've gotten to spend a lot of time in fish clubs with a lot of the science folks, through like the Marine Breeding Initiative and stuff like that. And I actually met the guy who did like the testing for rebreathers. His name is Dr. Richard Pyle. Okay. And he came and spoke at our like swap or our event. We used to do an event, and he came to speak. And it was some of the most amazing stories listening to him talk about. He went down 400 feet to test this rebreather, and he forgot to leave close some valve. And so he's down 400 feet down, and his mask fills up with water. And all of a sudden he remembered he didn't turn the valve, so he closed the valve, cleared his mask out, but he was fine. But
that would clean it out.
Very scary.
I don't know. I don't scuba dive, but yeah, he was just like no big deal, right?
I wish I was a big time scuba diver. I'm just a snorkeler.
I don't. I'm a little risk averse when it comes to my own personal well-being.
Not when it comes to sports, apparently.
That's true. No, that's true. I used to play goalie in soccer, and in my younger days, I was a little aggressive.
So I want to share this. It's Zebrasoma xanthurum. It's mentioned in the chat. Let's see if it's shared it or not. There we go. It is a very, very pretty fish. Of course, I'm partial to blue, so But yeah, that's definitely one that I would love to have.
Off the top of your head, Mike, how much is that fish cost?
I've seen them as low as $99, but they're probably now with the price of tangs, they're probably like $350.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Now, is a lot of that price gone up because of the Hawaii? What if this tang is like a Atlantic tang?
That one is like a lot of them come from like the Indo-Pacific. So like the yellows come from Hawaii. So that's why you're not, because they've only started to captive breed them, say in the last 4 or 5 years. And it's not something that you can, like, they've not gotten to mass production yet. Yeah. So it's one of those, it's really hard to get it, it's hard to breed them. I mean, when I started, they've only been breeding them for about the last, I don't know, like maybe 3-4 years, where they finally broke the code on how to do it. Finding the first food, getting it through settlement, and all the other things that happen with saltwater fish.
Absolutely. So Misfit paid almost $350 for mine for that particular tang we were looking at. But that ties into the question here from I'm sorry if I pronounced your last name wrong. Joy Krause says, "Why aren't more saltwater fish bred? Is it too difficult?" My understanding, and then I'll let you relate to it because you're the expert on this. But my understanding is a lot of it has to do with getting the fry to not die, basically being able to feed the fry and get them to be viable.
Yeah, it's a tough. I guess what I'll do is basically James is absolutely right. It's getting the fry to eat and getting them up to adulthood. And the industry didn't know how to do that other than with like clownfish and bangeye cardinals and some of the easier things. And there's two types of saltwater fish that breed. They're called, they're called pelagic. Which what they do is they do a spawning rise. So like your tangs and a lot of your other fish will do a spawning rise in the reef, and they'll like basically spray their eggs into the water column, and then they go, become larvae, basically. And then the other ones are demersal, which are like your African cichlids. They'll lay in a pot, like a clownfish will just lay its eggs in a pot, and then they go up and become part of the water column. But from there, they're larvae, right? And they just sit at the top as like little worms, right? And they go through, like a butterfly, they go through a metamorphosis process, which can take anywhere from, say, 20, 30 days, and some of them are months. Ed, if you can, look up Swiss guard basslet. I'll put it in the chat.
Joey, I'm glad to hear I got that right there. So fantastic. Sorry, buddy. Go ahead.
Nope, sorry. Go ahead.
It's in the chat. Swiss guard basslet larva.
So Fantastic is asking if Fish Tech Barn has any tank make suggestions for a porcupine puffer in a 185-gallon bow front.
Maybe a trigger. I've seen a lot of the triggers with those.
Yeah.
But
so and maybe you can dispel a myth here. And this has been a decade ago, so I'll preface with that. But one of the things I always heard was to be very wary of putting triggers with puffers, and I've had triggers with puffers. That if you're going to put a trigger with a puffer, you want to look for one of the upturned jaw triggers because they're less likely to bite the spines. Because I have seen the fluke pictures of it, and it may not be a fluke, but where like a trigger's tried to nip the spine off a puffer and ended up, jamming it through the roof of its mouth internally, and weird things like that. Oh, that's pretty. That is gorgeous fish.
Do you mind if I share my screen for a second?
Yeah, go right ahead.
All right. So we are going to share this, and we're going to see you guys for a minute. And then we're going to go to here. Because that's the larva of that fish. It has this, it's crazy. And it runs around with this, like, crazy, like, spine on it.
Oh my God.
That is weird.
And so, like, and somebody figured out how to breed this, right? There's just weird stuff like this that they have to figure out,
Does it eat out of that thing?
I don't think they ever figured out what it does.
Weird.
We know it's there. We just don't know what to do with it.
Right. It's just this strange thing.
So I was wondering if it's like the egg yolk almost inside the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but you can see here if you look at its gut, right? Its gut's got like all the. You probably can't see my pointer, but if you look at the bottom of the fish, if you look at its gut here, I mean, it's been eating. This is a fish that's big enough to like eat normal food. It's not a larva per se, or a prolarva or anything.
And that was a pretty little fish.
Yeah, that's that same fish.
That's very, very weird.
That's this. That's
so
crazy.
I'll go ahead and stop sharing now so that.
All right.
Give you guys
yeah, definitely a lot more things go into the saltwater aspect of trying to breed. And of course, you know better than I do, but it's not nearly, I guess you could say, as simple as trying to breed in freshwater. Although there are a lot of things that have their hang-ups, it's still overall, if you compare the two, freshwater is a lot easier to make baby fish in than saltwater is, typically speaking.
For sure. It's a little bit more fun because there's a lot of work that goes into that and a lot of failure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even with clownfish, I mean, it's kind of a failure as well. You do a lot of failing before you actually succeed.
All right. I think we are caught up on the highlighted questions and comments, and we're about 15 minutes over our normal 1 hour time frame here. I hope we haven't run over somebody else streaming. If we have, my apologies. But we're having a good time. But yeah, so a couple people were talking about prices in the chat. The prices of fish have definitely gone up exponentially in terms of saltwater. So it has made it more difficult, I guess, to do saltwater on a budget, so to speak. But at the same time, there are other things that haven't gone too crazy. So like zoanthids and different corals. I say zoanthids a lot because zoas are my thing in terms of saltwater. But there are a lot of corals that haven't gone through the roof, like your tangs, going from $50 to $800 for certain things. So there's still a lot of things you can do in the saltwater side that you don't have to worry about the, I don't want to say panic pricing, but the circumstantial pricing, and just have fun with it.
Yeah. I mean, have fun with it, and then just learn. I mean, and don't be afraid to fail. I mean, That's what a lot of this comes down to.
Absolutely. And I think that's, valuable and viable information for any part of the hobby, saltwater or freshwater. The only way you're going to get the experience is to try new things. You're probably not always going to be successful. Ed and I have talked about many times, we both were horrible with live plants on the freshwater side for, years and years, had no luck. And then finally things just kind of worked out, and we both have all our tanks are planted tanks because we wouldn't have it any other way.
Mike, how do you acclimate fish to your saltwater?
I have generally done the drip acclimation, where, and maybe I'll have to do a video on how I do it. But basically, I usually just use a piece of airline tubing, and I do drip those. I have done plop and drop too, and I've heard different things. I've done it different ways at different times, but I've done mostly drip acclimation. But I don't do it for too long. And then if you're getting fish shipped in, definitely have something that gets rid of the ammonia at the ready, because once you open that bag, they're going to get hammered with the ammonia. So I would have something ready if you're going to drip acclimate fish coming from online.
Is there a lot of saltwater mailing or shipping?
It is. There's some, like the Live Aquaria, Divers Den. There's a company out there called Blue Zoo, and there's a few others as well. But I did ask people before, and I was like, what do you do? And a lot of them were, you have to drip. So, but don't do like a 9-hour drip acclimation either, right? Like do it. I do it like half an hour, if that. Enough to kind of like replace the water and kind of see how they're doing.
Yeah.
And then I actually do, because I've been bad and I don't quarantine. I should, and I'm gonna get burned by it.
Yeah, that's the thing, is you can choose not to do it, but eventually it's gonna bite you in the backside.
But what I have been doing though is I have been freshwater dipping anything that goes in before it goes in the tank.
Now, do you quarantine your crustaceans, or can you just plop and drop them?
I just plop and drop those.
Okay.
Same here.
I really only plan on having 3 fish in my tank ever. So,
yeah, and a lot of times if you do a freshwater dip, you'll get rid of a lot of the stuff anyway. I'm not perfect. Now I'm gonna tell you should quarantine, even though I just said I don't. I just don't have a tank size for like that tank that you saw earlier in the video. I don't have a saltwater tank set up for that fish.
No, you said a freshwater dip.
Yep.
It's kind of like a saltwater dip for freshwater fish?
Kind of. Basically what it does is it creates, it'll basically knock all the parasites off, because it'll cause like an osmotic shock to the parasites and they'll all die. But if you leave, as long as you don't leave the fish in for too long, the fish will be fine.
How long would you suggest
5
somebody do? 5 minutes? Wow, I didn't know they could handle that. That's cool.
Yeah, I did do a video on that on how to do it.
Oh, we'll have to get the link in there, because I know we've got some people that are definitely curious as to how that works.
Yeah, no, I'm giving you bad advice here, because don't follow my advice. Do what you're supposed to do in quarantine.
Yeah, well, and honestly, that's one of the things that I think comes with being in the hobby for a while. Is you get to a certain comfort level with yourself and your skills and what the environments are in your tank. And at least myself, and I'm sure you two gentlemen as well, we're a little bit more cautious, or at least more aware of where our fish are being sourced from, versus maybe the person that just got in the hobby last week, ran to Petco and got a bunch of fish that were all in the same system as the icked out mollies. We actually kind of look at what's the health of the fish that we're getting before we get them. Is there, and we weigh that risk before we decide if we are going to bypass quarantine.
Yeah, I got burned on saltwater or freshwater stuff. I went to Chicago to Joliet before Aquashella, and I bought these mollies from somebody, and I put them in a tank with one of my swordtail colonies, and it darn near wiped out half the tank. And I don't get very much disease at all.
Right.
And so it was, it was one of those, like, well, thankfully I had the med trio and I was able to save at least part of the colony and part of the group. But
yeah, and I mean, it's absolutely, just like Scuba Steve-O's saying, I'm guilty of not quarantining myself until I lost a whole tank to ick once, and now I'll never buy another fish without doing so. I've lost 12 cichlids, 2 plecos, and a clown loach. So yeah, it's one of those that, I always recommend it. There have been circumstances I haven't quarantined. I think we've all at least gone through one point where we didn't quarantine something, for better or worse, whether it was lack of choice or just we thought it'd be okay. But I think all of us still recommend to quarantine whenever possible, just to be safe, so you don't get burned, because it does suck whenever you lose fish, especially if you lose expensive fish or a lot of fish. So
Pompeii Ranch kind of has a question on quarantining also.
Yeah.
The temperature in my quarantine tank is 84, 82 in my regular tank. Is it okay to put my fish in quarantine now? Oh, I wonder if the fish from quarantine into the regular tank. Is 2 degrees going to throw it off, I'm thinking.
I mean, you could float the bag if you're really concerned.
Yeah. So actually, hey, we'll do an unboxing live since we're still on here, because I haven't opened this up yet. I'm going to try not to show my address on here. But I love these things, and this is one of the things I use them for. Let's see if I can get this open. This is from the Coop. Shout out, thank you, Corey Zenzo, sending this out to me. I appreciate it. Although I've shown these before and I've bought many, many of them. These were shipped to me, so full disclosure there. But it's one of the things I love these for. When I've got fish I need to move around, I'll put that fish in there with the water, whatever. So I'm not sure if you're going from 84, 82, but whichever one you are, fish with its water in here, you can actually take and sit this down inside the tank, hook it on the rim, and then it can temperature acclimate that way. So it can adjust to the temperature of the water. Just in case if you're not, bagging, it's an option, but if you, I don't really keep bags around a whole lot except for like my shipping breather bags. And part of that is because I have these things. So I will do that. I'll flip them inside of the tank instead of hanging on the outside for temperature acclimation purposes.
And then you could get a good look at them before you put them in.
Yep.
Make sure there's no ick on it.
Oh yeah, and so going from regular to quarantine. So yeah, it's only a couple degree variance, but it's still something. You've got a fish that's not feeling well anyways, because you're moving it into quarantine. So I typically will take that extra little bit of precaution. Again, I'm weird like that. How's the fish feeling? Can I make the fish feel any better in the situation? So I would probably do something like that. If you don't have one of those, you could even take, some Tupperware, just make sure it's rinsed really well, doesn't have any dish soap on it. Kind of float the fish in the tank in that so that it can temperature acclimate, since it is kind of a sick fish, if you will, since it's going into quarantine. Thank you, Zen, for posting the link to the freshwater dip video from Fish Tank Barn. Thank you, Zen. All right. Well, gentlemen, it has been an hour and 24 minutes. We went over a little bit. It's kind of been a wild ride. Misfit, I'm glad I gave you something to try out. And again, thank you for becoming a member. I hope you enjoyed the behind-the-scenes stuff. And, of course, now you can use all those super fun little members-only emojis in the chat. So feel free to have fun with that. I know the other members enjoy those. Any final wrap-up words from either of you gentlemen?
Nope. Thank you for having me on again. This is definitely a lot of fun. So Looking
I
forward to the
thoroughly
next
enjoy
one.
it. All right. So for anybody that doesn't know, we do simple saltwater once a month. So we will be back next month with the next episode. And before then, we will let you know exactly what the topic will be. We will be going back topic oriented, at least for the next couple of them, just so that we can continue that series on. And then, of course, we'll come back and do another open Q&A style like this. But we're always taking questions, even when we're doing a topic. As always, go check out my buddy, Chattanooga Ed. He's not back there. He's over here. Hopefully he's not lurking behind the fish tank. Chattanooga Ed, and of course, Fish Tank Barn. Fish Tank Barn, you've got a video coming out tomorrow around 10 a.m. Eastern time. Going to be awesome.
10:30, yep.
So I appreciate both of you gentlemen for being on. A huge thank you to the moderator team, of course, the members, old and new, the lurkers, the listeners, the super chatters and contributors, the questioners, commentators, and of course, the replay crew. Until next time, I appreciate you guys. You already know what it is. Keep your fish healthy. Keep yourselves healthy. Don't be afraid to catch yourself a little fish room fever. Take care, everybody.